Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? Week two of the UFL season has come to a close. We had some great games, we had some good games, and we had some downright terrible games this weekend. We got a lot to unpack. We got coaches leaving, we got trades, we got all kinds of crazy stuff. It's time to kick things in a high gear, and it's time for another episode of On the Mark. Let's go.
On the Mark with Young Mark is brought to you by the Real to Sports Podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of On the Mark, the part of the Real to Sports podcast where we kick things in a high gear and we bring you the latest and greatest from the world of football outside of the National Football League. We got UFL Week 2 action to get into, so without any further ado, let's go ahead and start getting into it. I'm going to go ahead and get the bad out of the way first. What was like the least entertaining game of the weekend, in my opinion. The Arlington Renegades, led by head coach Bob Stoops and the Spring King Luis Perez, they defeat the Houston Roughnecks by a final score of 9-11. Houston falls to 0-2. There really isn't much to say about this game. It was pretty much a defensive battle. Arlington's defense shut down Houston's offense. The quarterback, Anthony Brown from Houston, did not look good again. He looked very indecisive in the pocket. He's making some bad throws and some bad reads and pretty much struggled throughout the day. But he did improve later on in the game. We'll get to that in just a bit. But from the Arlington side, Luis Perez, he did okay. He went 19-27, 211 yards and one touchdown. The Arlington running game was really impressive. Collectively, they had 100 yards on the ground, led by Day Hunter and Kaleem Balaj. Day had 63 yards on the ground rushing for Arlington. So Arlington continued their winning ways. They moved to 2-0, but they had a little bit of a scare at the end there. Houston, they were trailing, and all of a sudden they turned things into the high-tempo, fast-paced offense. And when they kicked things in a high gear, that was really when Anthony Brown came alive and started to look good. He finished the day 14-30, 146 yards through the air, one touchdown and one interception. The touchdown was late in the game in the fourth quarter, and he had Houston in position to win. They scored the touchdown. They got the two-point conversion. They went for the 4th and 12, but unfortunately did not make it. So that's what ended the game and got the win for Arlington. So although Arlington moves to 2-0, Houston, we might have a little something there. If you keep going with that high, fast-paced, high-tempo offense, Anthony Brown might be able to do something for you. But that game was definitely not one to write home about. Really, the only highlight from the game came from former Raider punter Marquette King. He had a booming punt that pinned Houston all the way back on the 2-yard line. Other than that, moving on to the next game. The next game was far more entertaining, and I had a lot of stakes involved. It involved my now 2-0 DC Defenders coming off of a strong win week 1 against the defending champion Birmingham Stallions. DC was back at home, and they defeated the Memphis Showboats by a final score of 17-12. Before week 1, the head coach of the Memphis Showboats, Ken Wisenhunt, had to step away from the team for personal reasons. We didn't know when he'd be back. Turns out it was only a week. He came back this week to coach Memphis, and I have to admit they looked like a totally different team. E.J. Perry was out there balling. He finished the day 18-28 for 205 yards. He did have one interception at the end of the game. But the main story coming out of this game, ladies and gentlemen, I got to show some love to Memphis wide receiver Jonathan Adams. That dude was cooking my DC secondary. Mr. Adams finished the day 9 catches, 125 yards. I low-key wish he would have got a touchdown. I know he was playing against my favorite team, but you love to see guys taking advantage of the opportunity that the UFL gives them to show their talents and to put good tape out there. And Jonathan Adams definitely did that. From the DC side of things, it was another great game by the defense. Coming off of their 8-sack game against Birmingham, Memphis didn't allow a single sack all game, so kudos to Memphis and their offensive line for that. But other than that, DC's defense kept them in the game. Without that defense, I truly believe Memphis would have ran away with this. The offense still has a lot of work to do. Jordan Teyamu had a solid day, but he didn't look great. He finished 12 of 26 for 152 yards and one lone touchdown. He had a lot of passes that were either off target or drops by his wide receivers. The offense really has to get it together. Abram Smith showed a lot of improvement. He's starting to get back into his 2023 form after missing all of last year with a torn ACL. He finished the day with 55 yards on the ground. The team had 114 total rushing yards in the game, but it's honestly not enough. The defense is doing really, really well. We'll see how that goes later on because I got some breaking news for you guys from DC. But we'll see how their defense goes moving forward. But depending on this breaking news, they may take a step back, and it's going to be up to the offense to step up. And right now, I don't know if they can. I just need to see more consistency and more accuracy from Jordan Teyamu. I need the rushing game to get going a little bit more, and the receivers got to catch some passes, man, because Jordan Teyamu had some throws that were on the money. They were going to be big plays way down the field, and receivers are dropping them. So we can't have that, especially not going into week 3 where we got to go and play the seemingly best team in the entire league right now, the St. Louis Battlehawks. Speaking of the St. Louis Battlehawks, they went on to another dominant victory in week 2. They knocked off the San Antonio Brahmas by a final score of 26-9. This game was St. Louis all day long, whether it was the defense coming away with huge interceptions or Manny Wilkins having another phenomenal day at quarterback. St. Louis was rolling, and they were seemingly able to move the ball at will. Almost all of their drives were going far down the field, and they were getting points every single time they had the ball. Manny Wilkins finished the day 12 of 16 with 162 yards through the air. He also had 58 yards rushing on the ground. Jacob Sailors had another huge day for the Battlehawks. He had 11 carries, 46 yards, and 3 touchdowns on the ground, playing a huge part in them going 26-9. Hakeem Butler missed this game. He was out with a hamstring injury. Still kind of curious to see what's going to happen with him. With Manny Wilkins in at quarterback instead of A.J. McCarron, the offensive passing game is there, but it's not the same as it was when he had a true pocket passer like A.J. McCarron. So I wonder if Hakeem Butler might be on the trading block here soon to go to another team with a more pass-centered quarterback. But we'll see. On the San Antonio side, it was another disappointing day for quarterback Kellen Mond. He finished the day 13 of 27 for 129 yards and an interception. His offensive line isn't really able to protect him as well as they would like, and I think that's affecting his ability to get comfortable and get confident and get into a rhythm on offense. So San Antonio definitely has to get that together. But also got some breaking news on them too that I'll share in just a little bit that really might impact them going forward. Now we're going to end things with the opening game of week 2. It was another classic down to the wire, back and forth game between the rival Birmingham Stallions and the Michigan Panthers. The Birmingham Stallions, they escaped Ford Field with the win. They get the dub 21-12 over Michigan to move to 0-6 against the Michigan Panthers. Since the USFL returned in 2022, Michigan has not been able to beat Birmingham to save their lives. And it's almost like, ladies and gentlemen, a very similar situation in the NFL with the Chiefs and the Bills. The Bills are a really good team. They get so close, but as soon as they play the Chiefs in the playoffs, they fold. That's Michigan every single time they play Birmingham. Some interesting notes from this game. Alex McGough went down with a shoulder injury early in the game. He was replaced by Matt Corral. And I know host isn't going to like this, but for as much as Matt Corral was the reason why they won this game, he also played a big part in them almost losing this game. He had one beautiful touchdown down the field with Deion Kane, but he also had two interceptions. He's got to clean that up. He was phenomenal in the third quarter, though. I do want to give credit where it's due. He played lights out in the third quarter. He went 7-7, and then opened up the fourth quarter with that touchdown pass to Deion Kane. But at the same time, Michigan defensive back, I want to make sure I get his name right. DJ Miller Jr. Shout out to him, the cornerback for Michigan. He became the first player in UFL history to get two interceptions in one game. DJ Miller Jr. was locking up Birmingham's tight end. He got two interceptions off of Matt Corral and really had Michigan with a chance to win this game. Michigan, in my opinion, kind of shot themselves in the foot when their coach was going back to the two quarterback system. He was subbing in Bryce Perkins and Danny Etling. To me, the offense showed a lot more life with Bryce Perkins in the game. That dude is gritty. He's willing to put his body on the line to get that first down or to get that touchdown, and he proved it in the fourth quarter. Bryce Perkins finished 12 of 29 with 132 yards and a touchdown and also an interception. This game came down to the fourth quarter. Matt Corral had thrown an interception late in the fourth. Michigan got the ball back, and they scored a touchdown and got the 2-point conversion. So it became a 21-12 football game. So Michigan goes for the 4th and 12, and Birmingham's defense gets to stop, and that's what held out the victory for them. But they were oh so close. If Bryce Perkins could have connected on that 4th and 12, Birmingham might be sitting here at 0-2. But that was not the case. They moved to 1-1 on the season. Now that we got through the scores of week 2, I see you, host. Now that we've gone through the scores of week 2, just want to get to some breaking news coming out of the UFL. Like I said earlier, Alex McGough is going to be out multiple weeks with a shoulder injury. He's been placed on IR, and Matt Corral is going to be a starting quarterback moving forward. Michigan, they lost Breland Speaks, defensive end, to IR. He had suffered a knee injury in the game against Birmingham. And in a shock move, they traded star wide receiver Marcus Sims, who caught a touchdown in the game against Birmingham. He has been traded to Houston in exchange for offensive tackle Cam Carter. This was a very head-scratching move because Marcus Sims, throughout his tenure in Michigan, has been one of the best receivers in all of spring football. His teammates love him. The fans love him. He's very popular, and he always produces when he's on the field. But according to Coach Nolan, the head coach of the Michigan Panthers, it came down to needing offensive line help to protect their quarterback and help get their running game going, and also due to Marcus Sims' injury history. Unfortunately, he has been banged up. But last year, even though he was banged up, he still was an all UFL wide receiver. So definitely a head-scratching move there. Even more head-scratching, we had two coordinators step down in the UFL. Today, ladies and gentlemen. We had A.J. Smith step down as the offensive coordinator in San Antonio. He was once the captain of one of the most high-powered offenses in all of spring football, even going back to his days on Houston as the offensive coordinator there with Wade Phillips. But ever since the 2024 UFL championship, when he ran into the Birmingham Stallions defense, his offense has not looked the same. They had a bad showing in the UFL championship game last year, and so far through the first 2 weeks of the season, the offense has not looked good at all. Like I mentioned earlier, they lost their game 11-9, and it wasn't really good offensive showing for them at all. So A.J. Smith has now stepped down as the offense coordinator in San Antonio. Very curious to see how this team rebounds going forward and see if we get any new progression from Kellen Mond now that he'll have a new play caller in his ear. And in personal news from my DC Defenders, the Titanic continues to sink a little bit further. We're 2-0. We're going into a big game in week 3 against the St. Louis Battlehawks. And like I mentioned before, the best thing about the DC Defenders so far this year in 2025 has been our defense. The defense is led by Greg Williams, but unfortunately, Greg Williams is no longer the defensive coordinator in the nation's capital. He stepped down as the defensive coordinator today, shortly after the team got back to Arlington from DC in their home game, and he is expected to join former DC Defenders head coach Reggie Barlow down at Tennessee State University. So A.J. Smith stepped down. Greg Williams stepped down. A lot of change and a lot of shakeup going into the league in week 3. Speaking of the UFL in week 3, I got the week 3 schedule for you, ladies and gentlemen. So in week 3, kick things off with host and the 3-time defending spring football champion Birmingham Stallions. They got a home game against the Arlington Renegades. It's going to be Birmingham's home opener of the season, so really excited to see what kind of crowd shows up at Protective Stadium to see the Birmingham Stallions take on the Arlington Renegades. That game is Friday night, April 11th, at 8 p.m. on Fox. Moving over to Saturday, April the 12th at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. We got the Houston Roughnecks versus the Memphis Showboats. This should be a good game for Memphis. I think they're going to get their first one of the season. Coach Ken Wisenhunt has them playing really good on offense. A.J. Perry and Jonathan Adams were a dynamic duo, and if they can keep that going, I feel like they can put up some points on Houston. Despite improvements from Houston's defense, I still don't trust their offense to be able to match, so it's going to be a lot of 3-and-outs and a lot of opportunities for Memphis and their offense to put up some points. That game, like I said, is on Saturday, April 12th, 2:30 Eastern Time on ESPN. Also on Sunday, April the 13th, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC. We got the Michigan Panthers hosting the San Antonio Brahmas. It's going to be the Brahmas' first game without offensive coordinator A.J. Smith, going up against Michigan in their first game without Marcus Sims. So it's really anybody's game, going to be a good one to watch there. And in the main event of week 3, the nightcap, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, Sunday, April the 13th on ABC. It will be the St. Louis Battlehawks hosting the DC Defenders. It is going to be loud. It is going to be crazy in the Dome. Whenever St. Louis has a home game, their fans show up and show out. How will the DC offense play in this game going up against that crowd noise and that good St. Louis defense? Will they show improvements? Will Jordan Teamu be more accurate? Will the receivers catch the balls that are thrown to them? And also, how's the defense going to look without Greg Williams being there? His son is going to take over as the defensive coordinator now, so I'm curious to see if there's any change in terminology or any new packages. So definitely going to be one to watch. And if you like offense, if you like explosive plays, St. Louis is the team to watch. Their offense has been able to move up and down the field at will on teams all year. They're going to go up against their toughest opponent yet in DC. But definitely, if you want to see some offensive firepower, St. Louis has got it for you. It's going to be loud. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be a packed-out dome in St. Louis. And that game, like I said, is Sunday, April the 13th at 3 p.m. on ABC. And that's it for On the Mark this week. We'll be back and better than ever next week with all the news and highlights coming out of the UFL in week 3. Look forward to seeing you then. Have a good one.
On the Mark with Young Mark is brought to you by the Real to Sports Podcast.